Welcome to Yoga with Subhash. In today's segment, we will practice a few stretches that will help us prepare for the practice of headstand or the Shirshasana. So let's get started. Let's begin with the practice of upward facing and downward facing dog combination from the forearm plank pose. Lie down on your abdomen, face down, and just relax for a few breaths. Now come up on the elbows and position the forearms and the palms flat on the ground. Optionally, you can interlock the fingers together. Now curl the toes under and lift the knees and the thighs up, bringing the body completely parallel to the floor in the plank position. Stay in the plank position for about 6 to 8 breaths. This pose will help strengthen the core area as well as the arms and the shoulders. And now come down slowly and rest again for just a couple of breaths. And again, come back up one more time into the forearm plank pose, just as we did before. This time, we will add the movements of upward facing and downward facing dog from this plank position. To get into the upward facing dog, while inhaling, roll the shoulders all the way forward, lift the head and chest up, and drop the thighs and the buttocks down, making sure that the knees or the thighs do not touch the floor. From here, we'll move into the downward facing dog, and to get there, while exhaling, roll the shoulders all the way back, lift the buttocks up high toward the ceiling while dropping the head to the floor. And continue these movements for a few more breaths, keeping each move synchronized with the appropriate breath as indicated above. Again, inhaling, get into the upward facing dog, exhaling into the downward facing dog. When you complete the final exhalation, get into the child pose, the balasana, and relax for a few moments. Next, we will practice the inverted V balancing pose. So from the child pose, lift the head up and come onto the hands and knees in the tabletop position. At this point, position the top of the head on the floor between the palms. Keep the palms about shoulder width apart, flat on the floor. Slowly curl the toes under and lift the knees off the floor, making them straight. Try to pull the buttocks up toward the ceiling. To help you initially with balance, spread the feet wide apart, almost the width of the mat. Now slowly lift the hands up and bring them behind the back, interlock the fingers, and try to raise the hands up toward the ceiling with the elbows straight. Try to stay in the final pose for about 8 to 10 breaths. And now slowly come down, bring the hands and the knees to the floor, and again rest in the child pose for a few more breaths. Next, we'll attempt to build more balance by bringing the feet as close to each other as comfortable and possible without losing balance. Again, position the top of the head on the floor between the palms and keep the palms about shoulder width apart, flat on the floor. Slowly curl the toes under and lift the knees off the floor, making them straight, and try to pull the buttocks up toward the ceiling. Now slowly lift the hands up, bring them behind the back, interlock the fingers, and try to raise the hands up toward the ceiling with the elbows straight. So this time we will close the gap between the feet. It will take some practice and experimentation to know how close you can bring the feet together while maintaining balance. After some practice, you should be able to join the feet together while maintaining balance. Now try to maintain the final position for about 6 to 8 breaths. Slowly come down, bring the hands and the knees to the floor and rest in the child pose for a few more breaths. And next we will practice the inverted V Shirshasana prep pose. So from the child pose, lift the head up and position the elbows on the floor. Join the hands together, interlock the fingers, and position the elbows about a forearm width apart on the floor. Place the crown of the head between the two palms with the forehead resting very lightly on the floor. Now curl the toes under and lift the knees up. Try to stretch the legs very straight. Slowly start walking the feet closer to the forehead, lifting the buttocks up toward the ceiling. Make the effort to bring the feet close enough so that the buttocks are almost vertically positioned above the shoulders. And then try to maintain this position for about 8 to 10 breaths. This position will help you strengthen the arm, neck and shoulder areas as well as the core muscles and prepare you for the Shirshasana posture. Finally, come out of the pose and relax in the child pose for a few breaths. And now we'll get ready for the final Shirshasana or the headstand preparation. And we'll practice how to get into the final posture against the wall. So position your mat against the wall and rest in the child pose for a few moments on your mat. And again from the child pose, lift the head up and position the elbows on the mat about 6 inches away from the wall. Join the hands together and interlock the fingers. Position the elbows about a forearm width apart and place the crown of the head between the palms with the forehead resting lightly on the floor. Curl the toes under and lift the knees up. Try to stretch the legs very straight. Start walking the feet closer to the forehead, lifting the buttocks up toward the ceiling, and make the effort to bring the feet close enough to the forehead so that the buttocks are almost vertically above the shoulders. Now we'll begin by kicking one foot down and trying to lift first one leg and then the other leg up. You may need to do this kicking move a few times before you can bring one of the legs to rest against the wall, and at that point you can try and lift the other leg as well and rest both the legs against the wall. Try to keep the legs straight without resting the buttocks against the wall. While in the final pose against the wall, make sure that your head, neck and the shoulders remain comfortable. And stay in the final pose for about 8 or 10 breaths in the early stages of the practice. With practice over a period of time, you can build your your endurance to stay in the final pose for about 2 to 3 minutes. To come out of the pose, slowly bring one leg down first and then the other leg down to the floor. And as always, finally rest in the child pose, the Balasana, for a few breaths. I thank you for watching this video, and as always, I would love to receive your feedback, comments or questions. I look forward to seeing you for a future video. Namaste and have a wonderful day.